So I'd like to talk about the third eye, and the idea of this makes you think about angels and fairies and crystals, but actually it's more practical than that. So when you look at a human, most animals, they have two eyes, and there are a number of reasons for that evolutionarily, but the main one is redundancy. One of them gets poked out, you still have another to orientate yourself in the world, and you have a second eye to give you depth perception. The camera only has one eye, and therefore you'll need to use different tricks to create the illusion of depth, whereas having two eyes allows you to do this automatically. Stereo vision. Now, the idea of a third eye you can find throughout history. You can find it, for example, in the Indian culture with the yoga, you can find it in Tibet, and you have this eye here. Now, we can go into the more spiritual aspects, but the more practical day-to-day understanding of the third eye is that the ability to imagine, the ability to see something in our mind allowed us to survive more than just having two eyes. Most animals, for example, will be able to understand what's going on around them and respond to that. Maybe some animals have developed the capacity to squirrel away grain, for example, or do other things that allow them to survive into the future, building nests, for example. But as humans, we can actually imagine things. We can imagine, for example, hunting scenarios. We can imagine the necessity to keep warm in the winter. And this has been very beneficial for us. What it also does, unfortunately, is allows us to become conscious of our own death. And this is a very deep understanding that changes the whole way we approach things. It makes our whole lives very, very different, but that's another topic. On the third eye, the ability to imagine, to see something in the mind's eye, as it were, it actually is not completely ubiquitous. Some people are mind blind. They actually can't imagine things in their mind perfectly well. But most people can, and it's the ability to imagine something in your mind that allows you to see something that isn't necessarily there, something that can be, something that was, something that you might wish could be in the future. With photography, what we're doing essentially is using the camera to record things that we saw in the world. When we use Photoshop, we can actually create things from composites and so on. But with the third eye, what we're doing essentially is having the idea that we can create something. We can create something that is in our imagination. So for example, in photography, you can picture an idea or a concept or a certain photo project and then seek out in the world things that are actually going to allow you to represent that. So the conception comes before the execution. There's a lot of famous painters, for example, Michelangelo, when he was painting, or Da Vinci, they'd be sitting there almost lost in thought. And what they'd be doing is trying to see what they were going to create before they created it. Same with some of the people who made the statues as well, who would see the finished statue in the uncarved block of marble. You start with the end in mind. And the third eye allows you to do that. The third eye is that ability to conjure up an imagination, conjure up a picture in your mind that you can then bring into reality. And obviously with photography, we can go around and preserve reality. We can go and capture the things that we see. But we can also go further and express ideas, thoughts, feelings, and premonitions that we might have by putting them in the photography, by using the world as a paint pot. And then obviously as well, you can use Photoshop, composites and so on to create something that was not necessarily in the world, but in your mind's eye. So the third eye, on a very basic level, is that ability to imagine. And the first way to get in touch with it is to close your eyes and imagine the face of a loved one and really focus on imagining that person. Focus on their features and try and actually really see that person in your mind's eye. Another way to do this is to, for example, look at a candle flame for a long time, stare at it for maybe 5-10 minutes, and then close your eyes and see that candle flame on your retina. Not an after image, but actually to imagine it. You can also imagine colors, you can imagine objects, and as you practice this ability, this skill, it's not necessarily taught in our culture, you will develop your ability to see with your mind's eye. Later on, you can get into more spiritual aspects of this to actually see something that isn't there, that is on different planes of existence. This is getting into very woolly territory that's not necessarily very easy to explain within a materialistic culture, but those are different possibilities, opportunities that you can look into with your third eye later on. But to start with, just develop the ability to see things with your mind's eye. That's the beginning of seeing your mind's eye, your third eye. There are other ways to increase your ability to do this, having, for example, a very clean diet, living a calm life, having that ability to walk, for example, in nature without the fog of radio signals, the fog of distraction clouding it. And that's going to allow you to see better, to actually allow you to imagine things more clearly. So to develop your mind's eye, you need to also have that clarity in your mind as well. Your mind needs to become like a mirror. By clearing your mind, you can therefore see more accurately. The other thing about the third eye, of course, is that you can develop an intuition. You can have flashes of things from your subconscious, I should imagine, that can flash into your mind's eye and potentially warn you about situations that you may not have anticipated, but that your unconscious has. So by developing your third eye, it also allows you to see things that haven't happened yet, some sort of, what do they call, après-vu, or déjà vu. Déjà vu is past, I'm not sure about in the future, but the idea is avant-vu maybe. But to see things in the future before they happen. Again, that's not something you can necessarily force to begin with, but that can be something that you can develop. Also look into remote viewing, the ability to see something beyond the body, and that you can get into from hypnosis by understanding how to hypnotize yourself, to develop that ability to go into a trance, which is very provable by science. You can therefore project your consciousness, project your ability to see beyond your physical body. It's always getting to sound very, very airy-fairy, but there's a lot of evidence anecdotally for this, this ability that is dormant, latent within us. So third eye, start with by developing your ability to see colour, to see shapes, to see faces of loved ones more and more clearly as you develop that ability in your mind's eye. And you'll see that as you develop your third eye, other opportunities, other possibilities awaken. So I hope this has been useful. It's something that isn't necessarily taught very often, something that I have to look into from lots of different sources. And if you have any other thoughts about this, and especially information that you might want to share, please do so. Thanks so much.